Welcome to this special highlights episode of Mediaspace Members Daily. Mediaspace Beta launched on 12th of May this year, in historic times when the COVID crisis was around its peak. The economy and the media industry was strongly hit, social distancing was the new norm, and our daily Zoom interviews represent these very difficult months till the end of July. More and more members are joining Mediaspace from all around the world, and we do interview quite a few of them. We've had the pleasure of having some of the most experienced and influential interviewees within the media, marketing, gov, tech industries globally. Today, we'll be looking back at their key messages on the challenges that have arisen as a result of COVID-19.
The first thing you have to do is look at the impact it's had on particularly customers, but generally stakeholders. And the first thing is insecurity about health, about wealth in particular, now that we've got the recession coming down the track, and about family and friends. So there's a great deal of insecurity.
If there is one thing that we have discovered during this pandemic, that we are all going through COVID-19, is the realization that online world plays a far greater role in our lives and could even become a more significant part of our day-to-day lives than it has been previously and how we had imagined. And governments, but not all, on the other hand, are much harder and inconvenient to deal with. It's one government, but at the same time, we have to remember dozens of brands.
Budgets are tending to be on hold or reduced, both for jobs and for marketing and media generally, and more has to be done with less resources available. Also, what we're seeing is that how to market in the current climate is really an unknown. And so what messages should go out? Often from an organization perspective, what we're seeing with our clients is that they're sort of rethinking their whole strategy. So how to do messaging and branding within that and how to move at the same pace is quite a challenge for people.
One of the challenges that I think the digital media space is undergoing now is that with the drying up of non-digital channels for the distribution of content and for the activity of publishers, the power of online platforms and the importance of the digital distribution medium is greater than ever. And that creates legislative challenges, policy pressures, and of course, lots of challenges for the stakeholders who are active in the space.
We need to pull out a larger rabbit, from a smaller hat every single time we go and meet the clients. And I think this can only really be done with more creative media solutions. We have to find ways for alternative content production as well. We have to be extremely agile and we have to be more aggressive with these practices.
It's brought huge challenges for brands where demand grew almost exponentially overnight. Service brands like Netflix, Zoom, tech hardware brands where people were rushing to buy things to be able to work from home, but also brands offering basic household products like toilet paper, cleaning products, and flour. The other end of the spectrum, there were businesses that literally saw their business dry up overnight. Obviously, travel and leisure brands have been very hard hit. I know of one brand here in the UK where their business revenue went from £100 million a week to nothing.
The future of many businesses look very different than they did at the start of the year. It's the same for individuals and it's the same for governments as we all try and figure out how best to respond to the situation that none of us have experienced in the past. Now, to put it another way, before COVID-19, governments, businesses, and ourselves as individuals all had a strategy. We may not have called it a strategy, but we had a strategy. And the purpose of that strategy was to follow a trajectory that we believed would take us to a better future. COVID-19 has fundamentally changed those strategies. And in most cases, it's changed it for the worse.
During the crisis, advertising spend, of course, has been severely constrained. And the share of advertising revenues for publishers has therefore decreased even further. and I would say rather dramatically for many of the publishers. If you look across Europe, in some places, the advertising revenues are down by as much as 80%. And the question is how much of that will ever return to the traditional media.
I think one of the biggest things is the issue of education and looking at the kind of the outdated labor market models that we have at the moment. I think the business has moved ahead. I think some of the policy and I think some of the laws are still to catch up. And I think this is one of the challenges that we're facing.
So one of the challenges, of course, is that of privacy. Privacy will continue to be a challenge for the industry as we move forward. We think about the industry becoming more conscious of the need for data and the use of data, and every person becoming very aware of the use of their private data. And so that conundrum between the use of the private data and the need to use private data is going to continue to be challenges as we move even more into the social media targeted personalized marketing space, which is what is happening now in the post-COVID world. The audience is changing, the media is changing.
There has been a wave far greater than I think anticipated of misinformation and disinformation about this virus, which I think has been deeply troubling, and we haven't altogether got hold of the right ways of managing that. There's a lot of good work going on. There is good practice. People do understand that misinformation is out there, but this does seem to spread virally, to use the obvious analogy.
Thank you for joining us as we reflect back on our highlights. Stay tuned for the next special episode coming soon. In the meantime, connect with us at mediaspace.global.